Hello and welcome back to the Innsmouth Case with me, Bardon. Right, next we are going to go into look at the boarded up shop even. Apart from these, the shopping street doesn't have much else to offer. Faded wooden signs sway gently in the wind and identify one shop as a bookstore, another as a DIY store. The shop windows are boarded up. You need to decide which shop to enter, but let's go to the arcade next. The games arcade is hard to miss. At the end of the dead shopping street, a shrill neon sign draws attention to itself. You think it looks rather retro, although the people in Innsmouth will probably think it's state-of-the-art design. As you approach, familiar sounds start ringing in your ears, a heady mix of cheaply produced gun sound effects and mysterious sounds from pinball machines. Man, I remember the days of actual arcades. Seems so long ago now. This cocktail of synth effects gives you a jolt of nostalgia. Exactly. Happy memories flood your brain. Your first beat-em-up game when your opponent, a super limber septuagenarian yoga dude who played the boxer, ripped you apart, and all those exciting moments when you managed to win. The few tourist families who have ventured into the city centre with you were all dragged in here by their excited children. Now you pass through the gates to the realm of flashing lights and bad ventilation. It's extremely dark and the screens of the devices appear to be the only light source. Families, slackers, groups of teenagers and individual children crowd around in front of the screens to catch a glimpse of the games that are currently being played or to have a shot at playing themselves. The arcade is smaller than the elaborate archway initially suggests, but the equipment is not so bad for a small coastal town. Everything's beeping and flashing. Let's look at the games. One of the most important lessons you have learned, not from your own cases but from television, is look out for the small things. Only an absolute beginner would ignore the slot machines and look for the missing girl straight away. You, on the other hand, are playing the long game. Maybe you'll see her name token on one of the highest score tables. Maybe you'll be able to improve your own reflexes, toughen yourself, and steel your nerves by playing a few rounds. Little girl is missing, but you'd rather play a round of computer games. But don't worry, no one will ever find out. How often will you return to Innsmouth, you ask yourself. The answer, of course, is hopefully never again, so you might as well make the most of it and try to leave new high scores for posterity. You're interested in... I don't like first-person shooters, so not that. Retro game machines are interesting. Pinball. We'll start with pinball. On one of the walls there is a row of pinball machines. Curiously, no one is playing or even looking in the direction of the machines. It's as if there is an invisible barrier that you have to cross to get into the area. Not even the unlicensed 80s movies themes seem to be of interest to anyone. Perhaps it's not so surprising after all. Who would try to chase after a real metal ball if they can hunt down virtual demon zombies? The good thing about pinball machines is that they're cheap. You only need a few coins and you don't have to queue. Out of the 3 machines available, you go for the one with the vaguely recognizable but definitely not licensed science fiction theme. The machine's barren spell has finally come to an end. You put in a quarter and it rumbles awake from its deep slumber. It lights up and the pinball shoots out of the bottom. the bottom right corner onto the playing area and starts jumping around between the bumpers. This is great. You'd forgotten about how cool reality could be. Using the 2 buttons on the side of the machine, you can move the flippers. When you play, you are considered and focused. That's what I try to be. And a lot of the time it doesn't really work out too well, but at least I try to be. The ball flies into the upper regions of the machine, bounces on the bumpers and lands on one of the higher up flippers, where you manage to hold it. Your fingers frantically jab at the buttons, and the flippers go up and down, and then the ball slowly rolls down a little shaft on the side, closer and closer to the void. You start screaming. It's pure adrenaline. The frantic flippers manage to lift the ball up a fraction, but then you drop it right down into the middle. You've lost before the game has even properly started. The machine flashes and beeps, almost as if it was laughing at you. Now you know why no one else is playing the pinball machines. You step back to put some distance between you and the hellish machine. You still have 2 games left over, but you'd be happy for someone else to suffer through them. You decide to go back to the counter, or to the centre of the arcade. You're interested in the retro game machines. You can see a bunch of old machines which look like they're from the late 80s. There are barely any people here. A lot of the small screens show a swirl of flashing pixels that are barely recognizable as games. Some of them even have 2 colors. At least the games are cheap. They flash and beep. Try to play for a little bit. You think about which classic game to play. Play Pixel War, Street Kicker 2, Perf Ride, Pixel Bias. Well, that's obviously reference to Street Fighter 2. Polypixel War, what would that be? And these 2. Well, we mentioned like someone who sounded very much like what was his name? Dalsim or something? Dalsim from Street Fighter 2. So let's go Street Kicker 2. The mother of all beat 'em ups, a classic fight game with lots of colourful fighters. You think about playing for a few rounds. Select the fighter. Off we go. You've quickly identified the buttons for hitting and kicking, but you don't yet know how to do any special maneuvers. The second opponent beats you up badly. Game over. Put in another coin. Just by random experimentation, you manage to find a block move. You expertly wait until your opponent attacks you, and then surprise him when he prepares for a special move. You manage to clear the level. The timings of the next opponent, however, are less clear, and you're knocked out again. Put another coin. You put more money into the machine. You discover that one of your moves briefly stuns your opponent for long enough to do one of your own moves. Professional gamers call this a stun lock. You don't do enough damage to knock out your opponent, but when the timer runs out, you win because your health bar is a little bit fuller than the other guys. Yet, in the next level, your opponent manages to block your attack and you lose again. Maybe you should start doing your actual job. No, we're committed now. Put in another coin. You want to put in more coins, but you're out of quarters. You take this as a sign to continue doing your job, or look for other gaming machines. You frantically search your coat pockets. Jackpot, a quarter and a few nickels. This should do nicely. You're interested in... Well, gotta try the first-person shooters, right? Fantastic. Who would have thought that you'd come across one of your favourite games here in Hicksville? Shooter games obviously cost more money, but the graphics are the best. Pixel blood sprays abundantly, and you can shoot at the screen with neon plastic weapons. Annoyingly, this is where the most people are queuing. It will take a while until it's your turn, but what you can see of the screen, you're sure it'll be worth it. Your choice is... Okay, so Doom, Quake, and... Oh, what's that one? Oh, what's the name of it? Someone with the Nazi zombies. Something Castle, right? Castlevania? Something like that. Well, I never played Castlevania when I was younger. I did play both Quake and Doom though. Let's go for Quark. Quark 3, a classic shooter which doesn't even try to pretend there's a plot. Your opponents are monsters from another dimension, and that's all you've got to know. Sadly, the queue in front of Quark is the longest in the whole arcade, and while you're contemplating whether you're the kind of person who would queue for hours to play a computer game, even more people have joined the ranks of those waiting. You can't possibly wait until midnight to have a go, so no Quark 3 for you. Okay, well then it's gotta be Boom, right? Boom, another classic in the shooter genre. Boom is all about demons from hell who've taken over a research lab on Jupiter. Or was it Venus? That's all you can recall. It's been a while and you're a bit hazy on the details of the story. Okay. You queue for Boom. You've made your choice. You join the throng of people watching the current player of Boom. The screen shows the dark corridors of a space station, and every so often hellish creatures crawl out from their corners to attack. Red, pixelated blood splatters on the screen when the demons are being ripped apart by bullets from the 5-barreled shotgun. After several players bite the dust, it's your turn. That was faster than you had anticipated. You put in all the coins you have left over and your hands wrap around the neon plastic gun. The screen turns black. The message, "Prepare for Boom," comes up on the screen and you get ready. All you have to do now is shoot. By Jove, you are shooting. Well, we tried to be strategic on the pinball machine and it was an absolute disaster, so we're going to shoot chaotically. You blindly and incessantly fire in all directions. That has always been your formula for success. You wave your gun around and keep randomly jabbing the trigger. Indeed, afterwards, everything is dead. Your audience, however, is less impressed with your gaming style. What a knob! Looker! Sadly, there's no time to find out whether these were compliments or insults. Your shotgun bullets have a rendezvous with Demon Brain. Okay, the second level, your lift arrives at a lower floor of the space station. Or is it hell? Your opponents are getting stronger, and after surviving a few more dingy corridors, the first real challenge appears. Waves and waves of demons attack you as you try to protect the computer console, which is controlling something. This game would be ace if only it accepted that there's no discernible plot. You face the demonic hordes. So, for me, any time in these kind of games where I try to just sit and shoot, I'd always miss something and it'd overwhelm me. So we're going to try running around by running circles around them. These creatures must be wishing themselves back into hell while you rain down bullets on them. Always moving like a human tornado, you sweep across your enemies. The massive juggernauts in amongst your enemies try to attack you, but you manage to dodge them easily. When the demon wave slowly subsides, your awestruck audience congratulates you. Whoa! Barely lost any health. There's even some applause. Level 3, supported by your growing fanbase, you secure the mine shaft and nothing stands in your way. At some point, you can't withstand increasingly difficult opponents when you have to shoot one of the demons into his open heart, and the weakness of your line of attack begins to show. Not long after, you're surrounded and torn into pieces in an impressive bit of animation. Yeah, that's normally what happened to me in those type of games. Not too bad, one of the teenagers says to try and cheer you up. My turn, another cries, and grabs the plastic gun from your hands. Oh well, the machine took all your coins, but it was worth it. It certainly was, that was fun. You gave the search for Tabitha another go, but given the bad lighting in here, even if the girl was standing a mere 2 yards away from you, there's no way you would recognize her. After walking around the machines a couple of times, you give up on finding her in the arcades. You leave the arcade on wobbly legs. After all the flashing colours, incessant beeping and shooting sounds, you welcome the dullness of the shopping street. The evening has already begun. Have you really wasted a whole afternoon here? It's unfortunate, but a good investigator knows when to admit defeat. After all, you're paid in advance. It's time to go to the hotel. Okay, and that's where we're going to leave that one because it's brought us back here and we kind of know what's going to happen here. Well, we know most of the things that can happen, but we're not going to explore the hotel again. We're going to, next time we will go back to the town square and try and explore somewhere else. So hope you have enjoyed this one. Hope you're keeping safe out there, and hope to see you next time. Goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button there on the right, or checking out some other videos here on the left, or perhaps you might even share with some friends.